Media plays an enormous role in obstructing women's representation in politics. Ironically, the very same government to which women often seek election to is the same government that has released the media from any obligation to public interest. Jim Steyer, CEO of Common Sense Media, accuses lawmakers of being essentially absent from the process of media and its relationship to public interest. It is this modern media with no regard for public interest which serves to obstruct women's representation in politics through several means, the first of which is by providing women and society in general with a false sense of women's worth in society. Alice Walker once stated, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any." Mainstream media portrays young women as sex objects and conditions them not to believe in themselves or in their ability to make a difference, and that their only route to power is through beauty and humiliation, not in their capacity to lead. Mainstream media also provides this message to the entire population so that male counterparts can remind women of their lack of power. The gap between women in media and women in real life is huge and growing. It is important to realize that as long as this gap continues to grow, so will the gender gap in politics continue to grow. Society is then deprived of women whose perspectives and solutions could be extremely beneficial to government. Women brave enough to embrace their intelligence are faced with a second media obstruction of being bombarded by gender bias and stereotypes by a media hungry for ratings. Men and women are covered very differently in the media, and research does not indicate that gender bias in the media reduces as more women enter politics. Gender differences are and will continue to be a major component in political campaigns. Rarely are women portrayed in the media as being capable of handling the tougher male issues such as foreign policy and national security. As a result, research has shown voters tend to view female candidates as less capable of handling national security and foreign policy issues and more adept at dealing with social welfare issues like education and health care. Media also obstructs women in politics through its omissions, distortions, and inaccuracies when reporting about female candidates. Media omissions, distortion, and inaccuracy in the United States have made it very difficult for citizens to obtain an open, objective view of many of the issues. Sensationalized journalism has taken the place of fact-based media representation. For example, an anonymous contributor to a liberal blog posted a comment accusing Palin of fabricating her 5th pregnancy. Palin was portrayed as a liar. The posting raced through cyberspace only to be picked up by prestigious media forums. This inaccuracy then became a major focus in Palin's campaign. During Hillary Clinton's campaign, the media omitted benefits that Hillary Clinton brought to government, instead focusing on a distorted view of her as a candidate and reporting obnoxious gender-based remarks, including talk show host Chris Matthews' argument that the reason she's a candidate for president, the reason she may be a frontrunner, is her husband messed around. Rarely do male candidates have to put up with such ridiculous and demeaning media comments, and this type of coverage omits any representation about a candidate's education, experience, and positions. Michael Eisner, former CEO of the Walt Disney Company, was quoted as saying, "We have no obligation to make history. We have no obligation to make art. We have no obligation to make a statement. To make money is our only objective." Unfortunately, this position is shared by many in the realm of mainstream media, and as long as this attitude of greed persists, women will be obstructed from representation in politics. Mainstream media does have a choice, and on rare occasions when mainstream media, either on purpose or inadvertently, has acted in ways which promoted public interest, it has shown it can serve as a powerful tool for increasing women's representation in politics. The November 2012 elections resulted in, for the first time in history, women holding 20 seats in the U.S. Senate. According to the Center for Women in Politics, one of the factors contributing to women's successful political gains during the 2012 election was news events underscoring the need for women's voices in policymaking. Increasing mainstream media outlets such as misrepresentation.org, the Center for Women in Politics, and Ms. Magazine, which expound on the needs for women's voices in policymaking, can serve as a powerful tool for increasing women's representation in politics and provide a combination of information and action necessary to emphasize the need for women's voices in policymaking. That is not to say that CNN, Fox News, and others cannot serve as a powerful tool for increasing women's representation in politics, and one only need to look to the successful campaign of Chilean President Michelle Bachelet as proof. President Bachelet used the same media outlets which critiqued her leadership style and abilities to directly confront those who failed to vote for her in the first round of elections. Rather than succumb to the gender bias reporting which occurred each time she was in front of the camera, Bachelet took advantage of the media spot to look directly into the camera and address male members of the audience who failed to support her and directly confront possible concerns about her leadership style. This spot was shown more than any other spot produced in the second round of elections. If mass media refuses to change and support public interest, then those running for office need to change how they approach the media and begin to turn the tables and use the media to their advantage. As media campaign manager for a woman running for political office, I would have to impose the following 3 rules in instructing a candidate regarding the media and her campaign. Number 1, heavily prepare for the office for which you are running. Number 2, make people feel comfortable with you as a candidate. And 3, do not take the position that you have to compensate or prove your competency. I support my first rule by comparing the campaigns of Meg Whitman and Sarah Palin. While neither of these campaigns resulted in election to office, Whitman was portrayed as highly qualified because of her competence and knowledge with respect to the subjects related to the office for which she was running. In comparison, Palin's disastrous series of interviews with Katie Couric, for which she seemed ill-prepared, made her appear slightly incompetent. Whitman was methodical and before her campaign announcement spent nights and weekends with advisors going through individual subjects such as the state budget, education, immigration, and healthcare. Confidence and knowledge are the best weapons against those in the media whose sole aim is to trip a candidate up and show them at their worst moment rather than focus on their historical bests. Regarding the second rule, the campaign of Hillary Clinton was fraught with what-ifs. There was great controversy surrounding the best image for Clinton, and she spent so much time showing the public her qualifications, she ignored the fact that she was a woman. Clinton failed in showing voters what kind of woman she was. I agree with one of her advisors who stated that what Clinton did was that she did not need to prove her competence and steeliness anymore. People needed to feel comfortable with her. I believe a successful candidate has to stress her strengths and qualifications, but that those qualifications are of very little use if people never reach a point where they are comfortable with the candidate as a person. If this comfort level could be gained early on, I believe the media will have less of an attentive audience with which to blast a candidate with bias and gender stereotypes. In support of my third rule, I look to the campaigns of Claire McCaskill, one of which was successful in landing her a seat on the Senate. Having had the experience of running an unsuccessful campaign for governor and then a successful campaign for the Senate, McCaskill learned a critical lesson about running as a woman, that it was not all about compensating. McCaskill stated, I had to prove that I was competent because I worked on this notion that people would assume I probably wasn't either old enough, smart enough, tough enough, or male enough to do the job. It seems women candidates feel the need to prove that they are up for the job, and this provides nothing less than bait for the media, whose sole purpose at times is to find the tiniest weakness to exploit and sensationalize. Once a decision is made to campaign for office, a candidate should exude competence rather than take the position of having to prove competence. To do otherwise is to invite a feeding frenzy of hungry mass media. It is well known that female candidates receive more negative media coverage in comparison to male candidates. Female candidates need to prepare themselves accordingly. Women candidates need to build a strong foundation which will enable them to not just endure the flood of negative mass media, but to confront it head-on, equipped to either render it insignificant or useless, or better yet, to turn it to their advantage in showing themselves as competent, viable, and productive additions to elective office. Thank you.